When I had just graduated from college, my boyfriend wanted me to take on a $500,000 home mortgage. When I refused, he turned around and bought an $800,000 villa for another woman. It was even paid in full. As he held the property deed, he told me, "The truth is, I'm super rich. I've been pretending to be poor just so I can test your integrity. It's a shame that you never passed my test. I'm very disappointed in you, Elizabeth. Let's break up." I just smiled at him casually. Then I walked away without hesitation. What a coincidence. I'm the daughter of the richest man in the country. I too had been pretending to be poor. For years later, we bump into each other at the Fortune List Summit. At that time, Nicholas has just squeezed into the top 50 rank. He walks into the venue with Yvonne clinging to his arm. It's then he notices me. I'm wearing plain-looking clothes without any jewelry adorning me, and I happen to be holding a child. Thinking that I'm a nanny, Nicholas begins mocking me. "Wow, you really went all out just to steal one more glance at me, huh? I can't believe you're able to follow me all the way here. You should learn to accept reality though. I'm on the fortune list while you're working as someone else's nanny. The gap between us is far too wide, so you should stop dreaming already." I just ignore Nicholas in favor of resenting my dad for making me attend this stupid event. After all, I've just managed to block out one full day just to spend time with my son, and yet I have to waste my precious time on this dumb event. Nicholas Hunt strode into the waiting lounge with confidence, Yvonne Myers on his arm. As he passed the side hall, his eyes immediately landed on me in the corner, holding my son, Eli Smith. Today was supposed to be one of those rare days I'd cleared from my busy schedule to spend with Eli. However, my father had asked me to accompany him to the Fortune List Summit instead. I had no choice but to bring Eli along. My plan was simple. Wait in the side hall, show my face once the meeting started, and then leave. Because I was carrying Eli, I wasn't wearing any jewelry. To Nicholas, I looked plain and barefaced, like someone's nanny. He marched over, his expression full of disdain. "If it isn't Elizabeth Storm. Is this how far you've fallen, working as a nanny? Clearly, you're nothing without me. It's a shame you didn't pass my test back then. Otherwise, you'd be the woman standing beside me now." He tightened his grip on Yvonne's hand and continued, "But thanks to you, I was able to find someone who truly loves me." Yvonne smiled at him sweetly. She must deeply regret it now. She only has herself to blame for being so blind. It serves her right to end up like this, though being a nanny suits her pretty well. She turned to a passing staff member and said, "Everyone attending today is a major figure. How can you just let anyone walk in? If something happens, will you take responsibility? Hurry up and throw this nanny out." While I wasn't wearing accessories, my clothes were all custom made by a top designer from Avenia. Over the past 2 years, I had taken over my father's entire company and had been so busy that I rarely appeared in public. The staff didn't recognize me, and because of Yvonne's flashy appearance, they chose to believe her. The staff member said coldly, "Sorry, ma'am. Unauthorized personnel need to leave." I didn't budge. I calmly explained, "I'm here to attend the summit as well. I have every right to be here." The staff hesitated. They had encountered low-profile elites before and weren't sure if they should force me out. But Nicholas laughed as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. "You, someone who had to rely on scholarships to pay for university, on the fortune list? What a joke. Since you claim you're here for the summit, is your name on the guest list?" My name wasn't on the list yet. The Storm family entry was still under my father's name. It wouldn't be changed to mine until he fully retired later this year. Seeing my hesitation, Nicholas turned back to the staff. "Let me tell you something. This woman missed the chance to become my wife because she failed my test. Poor people will always be poor, greedy, and short-sighted. Even when a massive opportunity falls into their hands, they still can't hold on to it." Since I had arrived early, none of the true power players had shown up yet. Most of the people present were ranked near the bottom of the fortune list. Some who recognized Nicholas began to laugh along. She really missed out. To lose a man as rich and handsome as Mr. Hunt, she must be kicking herself. I heard she dated Mr. Hunt for 4 years in university and still couldn't hold on to a blessing like that. Nicholas seemed to recall something, and his expression suddenly soured. Back in university, he had pursued me passionately. At the time, we had both hidden our family wealth, dating like an ordinary couple for 4 years. I had endured 98 tests he set for me, working menial jobs, donating blood, cutting off friends, getting injured, and even giving up my research grant. I eventually discovered he had been pretending to be poor all along, and every hardship I faced had been a deliberate setup. Meanwhile, he had been extremely generous with the campus belle, Yvonne, buying her cars and houses. My heart had turned to stone. I refused his 99th test, broke up with him, and moved abroad. The crowd didn't notice the shift in Nicholas's expression and continued to mock me. Suddenly, he spoke in a frigid tone. "That's enough. Throw her out. I don't want to see her face." The staff stopped hesitating and stepped forward to drag me out. I shook them off and snapped, "Let go. Don't touch me. I'm here on behalf of Samuel Storm. I'm his daughter." The crowd erupted in laughter. Yvonne covered her mouth as she jeered, her tone dripping with mockery. "Mr. Storm's daughter graduated from Sheffer University. Since returning to the country, she has practically taken over the entire Storm family business in just 2 years. The only thing you two have in common is a surname. You're just a nanny, yet you're pretending to be her? You really don't know your place. Since we're former schoolmates, I suppose Nicholas and I could hire you to look after our children someday." I shot back. "That depends on whether you're even capable of having children. Besides, what career do you have? Stealing a man's heart?" I had clearly struck a nerve. Yvonne's face contorted with rage. She had been desperate to have Nicholas's child to finally secure his family's approval. But after several miscarriages, conceiving had become difficult. She had secretly tried countless supplements, but nothing had worked. Furious, Yvonne shouted at the staff, "Are you deaf? Why are you still standing there? Throw her out." The staff didn't give me another chance to explain. They rushed forward, grabbed my arm, and began dragging me toward the exit. Frightened by the commotion, Eli began to cry. Afraid they might hurt him, I wrenched myself free from their grasp. "I'll leave on my own. Don't touch my son." Nicholas's expression shifted instantly. He stared at me in disbelief. "Elizabeth, what did you just say? That's your son?" "That's right. This is my son." "You're already married to someone else?" "Impossible. I don't believe you could ever move on from me." I stared at him, baffled by his ego. "Why wouldn't I move on? We broke up ages ago." Nicholas refused to believe me. His gaze locked onto my wrist. I looked down and realized that during the scuffle, my sleeve had been pulled up, revealing my bracelet. Nicholas smirked with smug certainty. "Elizabeth, you still want to pretend? I knew you could never forget me. Why else would you still be wearing the butterfly bracelet I gave you? If you tell me the truth right now and beg for my forgiveness, I might consider giving you another chance." The bracelet he gave me? He had given me a cheap silver bracelet that had rusted away years ago. This one was a platinum and diamond piece that my husband, Dixon Smith, had personally designed for me because he knew I liked butterflies. I was speechless. "Look at the diamonds. Do you really think you could afford this? My husband gave this to me. It has nothing to do with you." The diamond sparkled brilliantly, clearly worth a fortune. But Yvonne snatched the bracelet off my wrist, a sinister smile spreading across her face. "Elizabeth, how could you possibly afford such an expensive bracelet? Everyone here today is wealthy. You must have stolen it. If you can't afford to eat, you could have just asked me. You can pack up the leftovers from the banquet later. But stealing? You're setting a terrible example for your son." Sooner or later, he'll get himself killed acting like this. Hearing her insult Eli, I shouted, Yvonne, shut your mouth. I won't allow you to speak about my son that way. Yvonne opened her mouth to snap back, but suddenly she looked closer at Eli. Her eyes widened as she realized he looked familiar. A second later, she gasped. That's Dixon Smith's son. Elizabeth, why is he with you? Are you trying to kidnap him? How dare you? The moment Dixon's name was mentioned, everyone froze. Everyone there knew exactly who he was. Dixon was the world's leading investor. Any industry he touched was guaranteed to turn a profit. His assets spanned the globe, and even the wealthiest man in the country couldn't hold a candle to him. In fact, the only reason so many people had scrambled to attend the summit was the rumor that Dixon would be making an appearance. Eli wrapped his arms tightly around my neck and spoke up for me in a small voice. She's my mommy, my mommy. You're the bad person. Yvonne didn't believe a word he said. She stepped forward, trying to pry him from my arms. She clearly thought that if she could rescue Dixon's son, the rewards would be unimaginable. The prospect of such an opportunity made her lose all sense of reason. Her expression twisted. Elizabeth, hand over the boy. Not only will you not get a single cent for kidnapping him, but you'll also end up in prison. Suddenly, people around us began closing in, reaching out to grab Eli. Eli started crying in fear. I held him tightly, trying to navigate through the crowd. He's my son. Don't come any closer. We're leaving right now. But Yvonne blocked my path, her voice rising to a screech. He's your son? Are you trying to tell us that Dixon Smith is your husband? Take a good look at yourself. If you're going to lie, at least make it believable. Don't make me call the police. I wasn't afraid of that. That's right. Dixon is my husband. Go ahead and call the police. I'd love to see who they'd believe. The moment the words left my mouth, a cold voice rang out from the entrance. They'll believe my wife. The entire hall fell silent. Every head turned toward the doors. A tall man in a charcoal suit strode inside, surrounded by assistants, bodyguards, and some of the most influential people in the country. Dixon Smith. The man everyone had been waiting for. The man whose name alone could move markets. The second Eli saw him, he burst into tears. Daddy. Eli stretched out his tiny arms. Dixon crossed the room in long strides and took our son from me before wrapping one arm around my shoulders. His gaze swept across the crowd. The temperature in the room seemed to drop instantly. Who threatened my wife? Nobody spoke. A few seconds ago, they had all been fighting to grab Eli. Now they looked like frightened statues. Yvonne's face had gone completely white. And no. Mr. Smith, there must be some misunderstanding. Dixon didn't even look at her. Instead, he adjusted the butterfly bracelet on my wrist. The one he had designed himself. Then he calmly said, "This bracelet was commissioned exclusively for my wife. There is only one in the world. If anyone thinks it's stolen, perhaps they should explain how they came to that conclusion." The room became deathly quiet. Yvonne's hand began shaking violently. The bracelet she had snatched from me was still clenched in her fist. Dixon's eyes finally landed on her. "You took it off my wife?" Yvonne nearly collapsed. I was only trying to help." "Help?" His voice was terrifyingly calm. "You accused my wife of theft. You tried to take my son. You attempted to have my wife thrown out." Each sentence made Yvonne's face lose more color. Then Dixon turned toward the staff members. "Who authorized this?" The employees immediately dropped to their knees. "We're sorry, Mr. Smith. We didn't know. We were following instructions." Their manager rushed over, drenched in sweat. The moment he understood what had happened, he looked ready to faint. Meanwhile, Nicholas stood frozen. His eyes were locked on me. On Dixon's arm around my waist. On the way Eli called both of us mommy and daddy. The reality was finally sinking in. Everything he had mocked me for had been true. I wasn't a nanny. Eli really was my son. And Dixon Smith really was my husband. No. Nicholas muttered. No, that's impossible. You loved me. You couldn't have married someone else. I stared at him. 4 years had passed. Yet somehow he still thought the world revolved around him. I laughed. After everything you put me through, why would I still love you? The words hit him harder than a slap. His face turned pale. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked genuinely afraid. Then another commotion erupted at the entrance. My father had arrived. Samuel Storm. The richest man in the country. The crowd instantly parted. Samuel walked directly toward me. Not toward Nicholas. Not toward any of the wealthy guests. Toward me. My daughter. His voice carried throughout the hall. Sorry I'm late. The entire room exploded. What? She's really Samuel Storm's daughter? Oh my God. People nearly fell over from shock. Samuel looked at me and sighed. I leave you alone for 20 minutes and somebody already causes trouble. Dixon replied calmly. Don't worry. I'm handling it. Samuel's eyes landed on Nicholas. Then on Yvonne. Then on the staff. His expression darkened. They're the ones? Dixon nodded. Every single one. Samuel laughed coldly. Interesting. Nicholas suddenly panicked. Mr. Storm, there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Samuel interrupted. My daughter said she was Samuel Storm's daughter. You called her a liar. My grandson said Elizabeth was his mother. You called him a liar. My son-in-law appeared. You still called them liars. So tell me, Nicholas. Where exactly is the misunderstanding? Nicholas opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The crowd looked at him with pity. Only now did they realize the irony. For years ago, he had claimed Elizabeth failed his test. In reality, he had thrown away the greatest opportunity of his entire life. Not just the daughter of the richest man in the country, but a woman who had become one of the most successful business leaders of her generation. A woman whose husband was Dixon Smith. A woman whose family wealth made Nicholas's fortune look insignificant. The realization shattered him. His legs gave out. He collapsed into a chair. Meanwhile, Yvonne desperately tried to salvage the situation. She forced a smile. Elizabeth, we were classmates. Surely we can forget this little misunderstanding. I looked at her. Then at the bracelet she still hadn't returned. Security. 2 guards stepped forward immediately. Yvonne's smile froze. Escort Miss Myers out. And make sure she returns my bracelet first. The guards took the bracelet and firmly guided her toward the exit. For the first time in years, nobody rushed to save her. Nobody defended her. Nobody listened to her excuses. As she was dragged away, she screamed Nicholas's name. But Nicholas never moved. Because he was too busy realizing something far worse. The woman he had spent 4 years testing was the one person he never should have let go. And now she belonged to someone else. Someone infinitely more powerful than he could ever hope to become. The summit hadn't even officially begun. Yet Nicholas Hunt's reputation had already been completely destroyed. And things were only about to get worse. The humiliation at the summit spread faster than anyone expected. By the next morning, every major business publication was carrying the same headline. Nicholas Hunt publicly offends Samuel Storm's daughter and Dixon Smith's wife. What should have been the greatest day of Nicholas's career became the beginning of his downfall. Investors started asking questions. Partners began distancing themselves. Board members wondered whether a man arrogant enough to insult two of the most powerful families in the world was really fit to lead a company. Within a week, several major contracts were quietly cancelled. Within a month, his stock price had fallen sharply. The damage wasn't financial alone. His reputation was shattered. People who once admired him now laughed at him behind his back. Everywhere he went, people whispered the same thing. He tested Elizabeth 99 times and still couldn't recognize her value. Imagine throwing away a woman like that. He thought he was evaluating her. Turns out he was the one being judged. The story became a business school case study in arrogance. As for Yvonne, things were even worse. Her behavior at the summit had been recorded from multiple angles. Videos of her trying to snatch Eli from my arms spread across the internet. The public was ruthless. Brands immediately terminated endorsement deals. Social circles that had once welcomed her suddenly stopped returning her calls. The Hunt family, already furious about the scandal, blamed her for making everything worse. When Nicholas finally ended their relationship, she discovered that the luxurious life she'd built entirely around him vanished overnight. The villa he had purchased for her was sold. The expensive cards were cancelled. The invitations stopped coming. For the first time in years, she had to rely on herself. And she quickly learned she had nothing left. Meanwhile, Nicholas became obsessed. Again and again, he tried contacting me. Letters. Flowers. Apologies. Even requests for meetings through mutual acquaintances. Every single one was rejected. One afternoon, months later, he managed to intercept me outside a charity event. His eyes looked exhausted. Older. Defeated. Elizabeth. I stopped. Not because I cared. Only because I wanted closure. I was wrong. His voice trembled. I thought I was testing your character. I thought I was smarter than everyone else. I thought if I found the perfect woman, I'd finally be happy. He laughed bitterly. And then I lost her. I looked at him calmly. No, Nicholas. You never lost me. You threw me away. The words hit harder than anything else could have. Because they were true. He stood there speechless. For years he had imagined some grand reconciliation. A second chance. A dramatic reunion. Instead, he finally realized there would never be one. I got into my car. The last thing I saw in the mirror was Nicholas standing alone on the sidewalk. For the first time in his life, there was nobody beside him. No admirers. No supporters. No Yvonne. No Elizabeth. Just the consequences of his own choices. That was the last time I ever saw him. 3 years later. The Storm Group and Smith Capital had become one of the most influential business alliances in the world. My father officially retired and handed me full control of the Storm empire. At the retirement ceremony, he happily announced that he intended to spend the rest of his life traveling and spoiling his grandchildren. His grandchildren. Plural. Because Eli had become a big brother. And our daughter, Emma Smith, had inherited her father's eyes and my stubborn personality. Life was wonderfully chaotic. Exactly the way I liked it. One evening, after a family dinner, Dixon and I sat together on the terrace while the children chased each other across the lawn. The sunset painted the sky gold. Dixon slipped an arm around my shoulders. Any regrets? He asked. I smiled. Only one. His eyebrow rose. What is it? That I wasted 4 years dating Nicholas. Dixon laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee. I suppose that's fair. Then he leaned over and kissed my forehead. At least it led you to me. I watched Eli and Emma running through the garden while my father unsuccessfully tried to keep up with them. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Not because of the money. Not because of the power. Not because of the success. but because I was surrounded by people who loved me without conditions, tests, or games. People who never asked me to prove my worth. People who already knew it. I leaned against Dixon's shoulder. The evening breeze carried the sound of our children's laughter across the garden. And for the first time in a very long time, I realized something. The greatest revenge had never been ruining Nicholas Hunt. The greatest revenge was building a life so beautiful that I no longer thought about him at all.